At 02:11 a.m. on May 12, 1945, on a ridge above Tongdao, Lachhiman Gurung pushed his left hand down on a No. 182 grenade. The fuse burned at 4.3 seconds. It detonated before he could throw. The blast shredded his fingers and tore the palm open like a split boot. He did not fall. He pressed the stump against his uniform to slow the bleeding. The cloth darkened in 30 seconds. The blood loss rate was roughly 70 milliliters per minute. He had two choices: pass out or sit up straight and hold a rifle weighing 8 pounds 11 ounces with one hand. The trench was only 28 inches deep. Too shallow. Japanese Type 97 grenades would land inside easily. He pulled himself upright using the bamboo revetment. The wood flexed under 146 pounds of body weight. His company sergeant shouted to retreat. The order was clear: fall back 20 yards to the second trench. He refused. He jammed the rifle butt against his right shoulder. The Lee-Enfield No.1 Mk III had a 25.2-inch barrel and kicked hard. A one-handed shot risked a torn rotator cuff, but he chambered around. The bolt cycled with a metallic snap at 04:03 a.m. the day before. Muscle memory held. Japanese movement began at 02:18 a.m. 40 men in the first wave. Scouts with Arisaka Type 99 rifles. Barrel length 25.98 inches. Muzzle velocity 2,300 feet per second. They advanced in a staggered file, 5 yards apart. He saw shadows first, then the gleam of steel bayonets catching moonlight through thin cloud. Round 1 fired at 02:19:11 a.m. The recoil snapped his entire body back. He held the barrel steady by pressing his forearm against the trench wall. The first Japanese scout dropped at exactly 71 yards. No sound except the collapse of gear. 3.3 pounds of ammo pouches hitting the ground. The second shot came 12 seconds later, too slow for normal firing, but he did not miss. The bullet struck above the clavicle. The man spun. His Arisaka hit the ground, barrel first. Dirt puffed around the muzzle. The rest of the column froze for 2 seconds. Then they rushed. 20 yards away, his company withdrew. They thought the first trench was lost. They assumed he would last maybe 30 seconds. No one believed a soldier with one functioning hand could cycle a bolt accurately under pressure. His commander wrote later, "We expected silence. Instead, they heard a rhythm." He fired again. The bolt dragged. Without a left hand, he could not stabilize the rifle, so he locked the butt between his ribs and bicep. The wood dug into bone. Pain shot upward. He ignored it. He kept cycling. Shell casings clinked against the trench floor, metallic, sharp. A grenade landed at 02:20:37 a.m. Type 97. Fuse delay, 4 or 5 seconds. He kicked it with his boot. Sole thickness, 7 millimeters. Barely enough. It rolled outside the trench. The explosion lifted soil like a snapped bedsheet. Shrapnel sliced his right cheek. A thin cut, but stinging. He wiped the blood with his sleeve. The fabric stiffened instantly. Temperature dropped to 68 degrees F. Sweat cooled on his neck. He felt the tremor in his right forearm from recoil stress, but the Japanese kept coming. More grenades, more figures in the dark. He counted movement bursts. 1, 2, 3. The second wave approached at 02:22 a.m. 60 men. They spread wider, forming a crescent. Machine gun teams carried Type 99 light machine guns, 20-round box magazines. Rate of fire, 530 rounds per minute. They positioned on the flanks to pin him. Their plan, overwhelm by volume. He lowered his head by 2 inches, enough to reduce target profile. He waited. He listened to metal clatter as magazines locked. A bolt slid forward, then another, then another. He fired first. The bullet struck the gunner's shoulder joint. The machine gun dropped sideways, muzzle smoking. 3 grenades landed simultaneously inside the trench. He swept 2 out with his boot. The third he could not reach. He pressed his chest against the mud wall. The blast punched air from his lungs. Pressure wave, roughly 5 psi at that distance. His ears rang. He tasted grit. The trench ceiling, woven bamboo, collapsed partially. He shoved it aside using his right elbow. His fingers shook from shock. Bone fragments from his left hand ground inside the bandaged cloth. The pain sharpened. He steadied his breathing. 5 counts in, 3 out. At the ridge rear, his own men watched flashes burst around the first trench. They assumed the Japanese were clearing the position. They counted 11 grenades in 2 minutes. No rifle fire from their side. They prepared to fall back further. They believed he was dead. Then a single shot cracked out. Sharp, clean. Then another. Then 5 more, spaced evenly, like metronome ticks. The men stopped moving. The lieutenant whispered, "He is still firing." They could not comprehend how. The left-hand loss alone should have ended him minutes ago. Back in the trench, he adjusted his firing posture again. He set the rifle's wood stock against the inner wall, angling it down 1 degree to offset recoil drift. This stabilized the sight picture. He exhaled slowly. The next shot hit a soldier carrying a satchel charge. The satchel charge detonated when it hit the ground. A quiet thump, then a heavy blast. The explosion flipped 2 nearby attackers backward. Dirt rained in sheets. The shockwave pressed Gurung's uniform against his ribs. He blinked twice to clear dust, then chambered another round. A Japanese commander ordered a full assault. 200 men, a mix of infantry, grenadiers, and sappers with 15-pound explosive packs. They surged uphill. Their boots dug into soft soil, leaving deep impressions. They expected the trench to fall within 60 seconds. He held fire until they hit 50 yards. Close range favored him. The Enfield's .303 round carried 2,050 foot-pounds of energy. Devastating at short distance. He fired again. Muzzle blast lit the trench walls. Shadows jumped. A man fell. Another stumbled over him. Bullets rained again. He counted sound intervals. Metal. Clink. Fuse hiss. Explosion. He tracked their pattern. He shifted left. He shifted right. Movement precise. Every inch mattered. 1 wrong lean and shrapnel would cut the carotid. He used the trench's narrow shape as a shield. A Japanese soldier rushed directly toward the trench with a bayonet fixed. He lunged. Gurung fired from 12 feet. The round tore through rib and spine. The attacker dropped instantly. The bayonet handle scraped the trench rim as he fell. He paused for a fractional second. His right wrist burned. The tendons strained from recoil shock. He flexed once, twice, then resumed firing. Casings piled around his boots. 16 spent rounds within minutes. He reached for another charger clip. 5 rounds. Brass glinted. He pushed the rounds down with the edge of his thumb knuckle. Without a left hand, reloading was slow. The clip resisted. It took 5 seconds. Too long in combat. A grenade detonated near his back position. He felt heat lick his neck. Soil smothered the trench floor. He resumed firing. He aimed lower now, targeting knees and thighs. Wound one attacker, stall 3 behind him. The tactic worked. Bodies jammed the trench edge. The slope clogged with men crawling over each other. The assault line lost momentum. He breathed steadier. An enemy machine gun team set up 30 yards left. Wooden stock. Bipod extended. They opened fire. Rounds snapped over his trench. Mud spat into his face. He dropped lower. He could not raise his head without catching a round. He waited for the reload pause. Japanese magazines held only 20 rounds. Firing rate created a pause every 3-4 seconds. When he heard the lull, he rose 1 inch above the trench rim. Enough. He fired. The gunner collapsed sideways. The loader froze. He shot again. The second bullet hit the loader's wrist. The LMG tumbled. It slid down the hill. The metallic scrape carried through the dark. The Japanese infantry lost their suppressive fire. The pressure eased. Gurung rolled his shoulders once. The bone ache never stopped. 3 attackers reached the trench lip, bayonets thrust downward. He tilted left. The blade sliced past his ear. He fired upward at point-blank distance. The muzzle flash scorched the attacker's sleeve. The man fell inside the trench. Blood pooled quickly. He shoved the body out with his knee. His right arm trembled. Fatigue onset. Grip strength decreased by roughly 18% after extended firing. He compensated by angling the rifle butt deeper into his armpit. Stability increased. He inhaled deeply. Fired again. The second attacker lunged. He used the corpse as a shield. The attacker's bayonet stuck in it momentarily. Gurung shot him through the sternum. The recoil slammed into his ribs. Pain spiked. He ignored it. The man folded backward, sliding off the trench rim. Japanese sappers approached with explosive packs. 5 of them. Packs contained roughly 10 pounds of TNT each. Enough to destroy a trench section. He fired rapidly. 1 round hit a sapper's pack. The explosion tore open the slope, sending debris skyward. Soil rained like hail. The blast disoriented the attackers. Gurung used the moment. He fired again and again. 3 rounds. 3 hits. His trigger finger ached. His knuckle skin split from friction against the Enfield guard. Blood dried along the metal. His right eye stung from smoke. He blinked hard. Vision cleared slightly. He tracked movement among bamboo stalks. 2 soldiers crouched. He fired low. The bullet entered below the pelvis. The man dropped instantly. The second fled behind a tree. He shot once more. Tree bark exploded. The Japanese pulled back 10 yards, regrouping. Their commander shouted orders. Gurung heard cadence rhythms. He estimated another wave within 30 seconds. He tightened his grip. His right shoulder throbbed. A bruise the size of a fist spread under his uniform. A Japanese officer charged with a sword. He swung downward. Gurung leaned left, nearly falling. He fired from the hip. The round hit the officer's abdomen. The sword fell into the trench. Steel clanged against dirt. He kicked the sword aside. It slid under a bamboo support beam. He reset his firing stance. Right arm numb, hand slick with sweat and dried blood. He wiped it on his trouser leg. The grit rubbed deep. Pain flared. He clenched his jaw. Another grenade landed. He had no strength to kick it. He grabbed it with his right hand and threw it blindly over the trench rim. The fuse nearly expired. It detonated midair. Light burst white. He shielded his eyes. Soil peppered his helmet. His hearing muted for 2 seconds, then returned in a rush. A sharp ringing. He kept firing. Bolt. Shot. Bolt. Shot. Slow but steady. Every round counted. Ammunition was limited. He had 3 bandoliers before the fight. 150 rounds total. Almost half expended. A fresh platoon advanced. 60 more men. Their boots crunching leaves. Their officer signaled a flanking maneuver. Gurung spotted the movement at his right. He pivoted the rifle. The trench was narrow. Stock scraped wood. He forced it through. He fired. Missed. First miss of the night. The bullet tore through bamboo. He exhaled. Aimed again. Second shot hit one soldier's shoulder. He dropped. The others dove behind cover. He resumed scanning, breathing shallow. Every inhale scraped his chest. Grenades rolled again, 4 this time. He kicked 2. The others exploded outside. Shock waves rolled through the trench walls. Dirt fell in clumps. He coughed, his throat dry. He tasted iron. Blood from his cheek wound pooled at the corner of his mouth. He shifted to the left firing angle. More attackers crept through brush. He fired at silhouettes. The muzzle flash illuminated faces briefly. Fear, surprise, determination. All mixed. But they kept coming. His rate of fire dropped. Muscles fatigued. But aim held steady. Japanese officers signaled the heaviest push yet. 80 men. They charged with bayonets fixed, rifle barrels glinting, footfalls heavy. Gurung steadied the Enfield. Fired. Recoil hammered his shoulder. He fired again. And again. 3 rounds in under 8 seconds. Bodies fell. But momentum carried the rest forward. A grenade landed behind him. He twisted, grabbed it with the edge of his palm stump. Pain unbearable. He flung it out. Explosion shook the trench. His vision blurred. He blinked twice. Focus returned. He dropped to one knee. The trench floor shifted under him as loose soil slid from the last blast. His right arm trembled from shock and fatigue. He steadied the Enfield against the wall. The wood pressed into his ribs. He drew one long breath. Then he fired again. The next bullet hit an attacker mid-stride. The man collapsed forward, gear rattling, helmet rolling downhill. 2 others behind him tripped over the body, falling into the line of fire. Gurung cycled the bolt. Brass clinked on stone. Pain tore up his arm with every motion. The Japanese rushed again. More grenades arced overhead. Their fuses hissed in the dark. He tracked the sounds carefully. One landed inches from his leg. He swept it out with his boot. His ankle twisted from the force. The explosion shook the soil as he leaned back into position. Mud slid down the trench wall. His sleeve soaked through, mixing sweat and dirt into thick paste. He wiped the rifle grip with what remained of his left-hand bandage. Cloth fibers stuck to the metal. He ignored it. He exhaled slowly. The next shot punched through a chest. The man folded instantly. His rifle clattered to the slope. Others tried to circle right. He shifted with them. His shoulder groaned. He fired at the lead soldier. Hit the thigh. The man fell sideways, blocking 2 behind him. He used the stall to reload another 5-round charger. The rounds clicked into the magazine. His thumb scraped the metal lip. Skin tore further. He gritted his teeth. He forced the bolt forward. Chambered the next round. Shadows moved in the bamboo line. He waited for the clearest silhouette. Fired. The bullet tore through a forearm. The attacker screamed. A grenade dropped from his hand. It detonated prematurely. The blast threw 3 men backward. Dirt lifted in a wave. Gurung ducked as debris rained onto his helmet. He rose again instantly. He aimed at another figure sprinting low to the ground. He fired. The man spun, momentum dying instantly. His helmet rolled toward the trench. Gurung listened for movement behind the next ridge hump. Branches snapped. Leaves rustled. Another wave assembling. He steadied his wrist on the bamboo post. His grip strength, slipping but holding. The next charge came without warning. High-speed sprint. 15 men. Bayonets fixed. He shot the first. A clean collapse. The second lunged over the body. Bayonet aimed at Gurung's throat. He ducked left. Fired upward. The flash seared his eyes. The attacker fell directly into the trench. The body pinned his movement for a moment. He shoved the corpse out using his knee. His ribs screamed from the weight. As soon as the trench cleared, he sighted again. Another 2 attackers crawled toward the lip. He fired twice. Both dropped before reaching the edge. A machine gun opened on the right flank. Type 99. Its rounds tore bark from the trees behind Gurung. Splinters rained down. He stayed low. He counted shots. 15. 16. 17. Magazine nearly dry. He rose slightly. Fired 1 round at the muzzle flash. The gunner stiffened. The loader scrambled to catch the falling weapon. Gurung fired again. The second man collapsed onto the gun. The ridge went briefly quiet. Smoke drifted across the slope. His lungs burned with every inhale. His uniform stuck to his skin. Sweat mixed with dried blood. Movement sparked again near the forward ditch. 3 soldiers crawled, keeping low silhouettes. He aimed carefully. Fired 1 shot. It sliced through the back of a helmet. The soldier dropped flat. The others froze. He adjusted his angle. Fired again. Dirt exploded where a shoulder had been. The 2 men darted sideways. He tracked them by sound, rustling foliage, boots crushing leaves. He fired into the movement. 1 cry followed. Then nothing. He took another long breath. His arm shook uncontrollably for 2 seconds. He pressed the rifle tight to stabilize the muscles. More grenades landed. Metallic thuds along the trench floor. He swiped one out. Another detonated outside. The blast threw dust into his face. He blinked rapidly. His right eye watered. Vision blurred. He wiped it with the back of his hand, smearing blood across his cheek. When his sight sharpened, 3 new silhouettes moved fast along the ridgeline. They advanced in a tight formation. He aimed for the center man first. Fired. The man's torso jerked violently. The formation broke instantly. He shifted aim. Fired again. The next man fell backward. The last one dove into a shallow depression. Gurung fired at the mound. Dirt kicked up. The man crawled away in panic. Gurung kept pressure, but saved rounds. He scanned left. More shapes emerged. Another platoon preparing. The fight showed no sign of stopping. He checked his ammunition instinctively. By weight. 2 bandoliers gone. His remaining one felt lighter. Approximately 40 rounds left. He tightened his jaw. The attackers outnumbered him heavily, but they kept entering a bottleneck approach. 1 rifle used properly could control it. He repositioned his back against the trench wall to rest his legs briefly. Quadriceps burned from crouching. His boot soles slipped on loose soil. He stabilized. Another movement flickered to his left. He raised the Enfield, fired instantly. A head snapped backward. Helmet flew off. Another soldier behind that one froze. Gurung fired before the man could retreat. He saw the bullet strike the man's collarbone. The body spun and collapsed. A shadow darted from the flank. Gurung pivoted sharply. Pain shot up his spine, but he fired again without hesitation. The round caught the attacker mid-run. Dust puffed around his boots as he fell. Gurung exhaled hard. Steam escaped his mouth in the night air. His heartbeat hammered against his ribs. He controlled his breathing. Slow inhale, quick exhale. His training held him steady despite shock. A grenade rolled in again. He reacted instantly, kicked it up the trench wall. It bounced out. Explosion followed. He shielded his face. Soil rained across his shoulders. He rose again. Rifle ready. The next group approached low, trying to reach the trench under his line of fire. He shot the first one through the thigh. The man collapsed. Others tried to pull him forward to use as cover. Gurung fired again. The helper fell over the wounded man. Movement jammed again. He used the stall to adjust his grip, fingers numb, wrist close to locking. He lifted the rifle using his forearm as leverage. Another attacker came over the top, bayonet outward. Gurung thrust the barrel upward and fired point blank. The attacker dropped into the trench. His gear clattered loudly as he hit the floor. Gurung shoved the body aside immediately. Two more attackers leapt into view. One threw a grenade directly at him. He ducked. The grenade overshot by inches and exploded behind him. The shockwave pushed him forward. He nearly dropped the rifle. He recovered instantly. Fired 2 rounds. Both men fell on the slope. He felt the tremor in his right hand worsen. He squeezed the stock harder. The pain sharpened, but the grip steadied. More movement surged near the crest. He fired again. Hit a torso. Fired again. Hit a knee. He kept tracking. The slope became a trail of bodies. A machine gun tried to set up again on the right. He saw the bipod legs unfold. He fired before the gunner settled. The gun jerked. The gunner collapsed onto the weapon. The loader scrambled backward. Gurung shot once more. The man flipped onto his back, rolling downhill. The ridge quieted again. Only faint moans from the wounded remained. Smoke drifted like fog. Gurung wiped sweat off his brow with the inner part of his sleeve. His arm burned, shoulder nearly numb. He forced it up again. Forced the rifle back into firing posture. He heard rustling behind the bamboo. Not many this time. Smaller group, probably testing the trench's state. He aimed, fired, hit the first. The others scrambled. He fired again, hit another in the spine. The third fled. Gurung steadied his breath and scanned for the next threat. The Japanese tried another tactic, crawling approach, slow movements, using fallen bodies as cover. He tracked each shift, fired into gaps. Each shot pushed his shoulder deeper into the trench wall. The pain blended into a dull throb. He counted the rounds left, maybe 25. He used them carefully now. He aimed at legs, slowed charges, forced attackers to drag wounded. He shot shoulders, dislocated arms, stalled movements, precision over volume. He saved energy with each controlled shot, breathing steadier now, mind focused entirely on rhythm. The next group tried a close approach, grenades in hand. They sprinted the last 10 yards. He fired once. A grenade fell from a man's hand, detonated instantly. The explosion tore through the sprinting group. 3 men dropped in silence. Gurung braced himself from the blast wave. Dirt filled his mouth. He spit to clear it. He lifted the rifle again. Another movement near the ridge crest. He fired, hit a helmet. The man ducked. Gurung cycled the bolt, fired again. hit flesh. A body rolled down the slope, leaving a faint line in the soil. He checked his ammo again. Few rounds left. But attackers slowed. The ridge littered with bodies. Movement less frequent. The Japanese hesitated now. They whispered orders. He heard the uncertainty in their voices. They expected a dead man hours ago. Instead, one rifle still controlled the ground. He repositioned his feet. The trench floor slippery with dust, sweat, and blood from previous attackers who fell inside. He braced his right shoulder. The muscles barely responded. He forced them. Another shadow appeared at the far edge. He fired. The figure dropped instantly. He exhaled hard, his arm nearly limp. He used the trench wall to lift the rifle again. His hand slipped on the stock. He wiped it. More blood smeared. He did not stop. Another attacker crouched, waiting. Gurung fired before the man could rise. The silhouette disappeared. The scene quieted. No movement for several seconds. His breathing echoed in the stillness. He checked the ridgeline again. Smoke thinned. The moon cut through the haze. He scanned every patch of soil. No immediate attackers. But he kept the rifle ready. He expected another charge. Boots scraped against stone. A lone attacker sprinted forward, grenade in hand. Gurung fired instantly. The grenade rolled from the man's fingers. It detonated halfway down the slope. The blast lit the trees. Gurung shielded his eyes. He lowered his hand. No more movement emerged. He inhaled deeply, chest tight, shoulder locked. His fingers nearly frozen from strain. He tried to lift the rifle again, managed only with effort. He leaned into the trench wall, forced the weapon upright. He kept scanning. The dark ridge felt alive, but no shapes broke through. The final probing attack came quietly. 3 silhouettes creeping along the left flank. He shot the first, immediately pivoted, shot the second. The third froze. Gurung fired again. 3 shots in under 7 seconds, his fastest burst since losing his hand. All hits. Silence returned, long, heavy. Smoke drifted upward. Bodies scattered across the slope. The soil torn open by grenade blasts and bullets. Gurung kept the rifle raised, though his arm trembled uncontrollably now. He waited for another charge. None came. The ridge finally stopped moving. He leaned back against the trench wall. His right arm fell to his side, shaking. The Enfield hung loosely from his grip. He breathed in short, heavy bursts. Sweat stung his eyes. Dirt clung to his skin. The night air pressed cold against his wounds, yet he kept scanning the ridge. Steady, watchful. One hand gone. One rifle nearly empty. 40 attackers. 60. 100. More still. But he did not leave the trench. Not once. Not through the pain. Not through the explosions. Not through the final silence. He pulled the bolt with 2 fingers. The metal stuck for half a second. Dried blood had set inside the grooves. He forced it open. The sound was a hard metallic snap that echoed off the trench wall. He felt the vibration in his wrist. His left arm had stopped shaking, but only because it was numb. He heard a footstep on the ridge, a light scrape. Leather against bamboo. The enemy was trying to move silently, but weight gives men away. Around 40 kilograms of kit always betrays position. Gurung raised the No.1 Mk III. The rifle weighed 8 pounds 10 ounces. It felt like a sandbag balanced on bone. He squeezed the trigger. A muted crack. The round left the barrel at about 2,440 feet per second. He did not check the hit. You do not check hits at this range. You fire again." He chambered another round with the tips of 2 fingers and kept the muzzle level. A grenade rolled down the embankment. The fuse hissed. He counted. 1, 2, 3. He exhaled and pressed himself against the wet earth. The blast punched the trench. Dirt rained onto his head. His ears rang at a high frequency, somewhere near 3,000 hertz. He blinked until the static cleared. Another sound followed. Cloth brushing wood. Someone crawling along the trench lip. The Japanese Type 99 rifle made a specific scrape when moved across bamboo. Gurung recognized it from the first hour of fighting. He angled his barrel up just an inch and waited for the shadow to lean forward. He fired once. The recoil ran straight into his shoulder. A dull, controlled kick. The figure dropped sideways. The helmet hit the dirt with a metallic thud. He listened for a second body. Nothing. Just the faint rustle of wind hitting palm leaves. He wiped his cheek with the back of his hand. It came away black with smoke residue. The trench smelled of cordite, sweat, and burned cloth. Smoke settled in layers, hanging low like fog. His throat felt thick. He swallowed it down and checked the ground for more grenades. A soft clatter came from the right. Not metal. Wood. Someone had set down a rifle too carefully. That meant an approach. Gurung shifted his weight. His left hand was useless, but his legs were steady. He knelt beside the corner and kept the rifle tight against his ribs. A bayonet entered view first. The Type 30 blade was 40 centimeters long. Polished steel, designed for thrusting, not slashing. It caught a faint reflection from the moonlight. Gurung waited until the wrist appeared. He fired into the crease where bone meets tendon. The soldier fell forward. The bayonet stuck upright in the dirt. Gurung kicked it aside, grabbed the fallen rifle by the sling, and dragged it into the trench. He checked the magazine. 5 rounds left. He set it beside him as a spare. The ground shook again. Footsteps. More than 2. A squad. Their pace was slow, deliberate. They were tightening the circle. He pulled his body back against the trench wall and steadied his breathing. The smell of wet clay filled his nose. He kept the rifle barrel pressed against his cheekbone. A hand gripped the ridge above him. Fingernails caked with mud. The arm pulled upward. A helmet rose into view. Gurung fired. The helmet snapped back. He fired again. Metal clattered against bamboo. A third shot silenced the groan. He crawled 2 feet left. The movement felt like dragging weights. His uniform was soaked. Sweat mixed with dirt and dried blood until the fabric clung to him like a second skin. He brushed aside a loose cartridge case and checked the trench corner again. He heard whispers. 2 voices. Low. Urgent. Japanese syllables clipped tightly. They were debating entry points. He listened. One voice shifted right. The other stayed center. He had maybe 6 seconds before one jumped in from each side. He picked up the spare rifle, chambered around with his teeth holding the bolt knob for leverage. The metal tasted of oil and dirt. He aimed center. Fired. The voice cut instantly. The second voice froze. Silence. Then a single breath. Light. Controlled. The second soldier was trained. Gurung steadied both rifles beside him. He leaned forward just an inch and waited for the breath to change tempo. It did. A slight shift. An inhale before movement. Gurung fired. Cloth rustled. Someone hit the ground with a soft collapse. He exhaled through his nose and lowered the rifle. His left arm pulsed. A slow, heavy throb. He ignored it and checked the trench lip again. Another grenade rolled down. Smaller sound. Not thrown. Dropped. The soldier above misjudged the slope. The grenade hit a root and bounced back upward. Gurung watched it arc in a slow loop. The fuse burned white. The grenade disappeared over the ridge again. A muffled explosion followed. A mistake from the attacker. Gurung took advantage. He pushed the rifle barrel time right and fired blind toward the ridge. A shout, then a sharp impact. Someone fell onto bamboo, snapping 3 stalks. He moved again. His boots sank into mud. The trench floor pooled water around his ankles. He adjusted his stance to keep balance. He placed his shoulder against the wall and aimed upward with a slow, steady lift. He heard metal scraping. Metal. A soldier pulling the pin ring against a buckle. Gurung fired before the sound faded. The grenade dropped harmlessly beside the dead body above. A second later, its blast shook loose a spray of leaves and soil. He used the momentary chaos to reload. Bolts clacked. Rounds slid into magazines. He worked by muscle memory, each motion exact. He kept his eyes forward. Anything above shoulder height could mean a blade or a grenade. A shadow dipped. A silhouette leaned forward, with a bayonet leading the motion. Gurung stepped back. The blade stabbed into empty air. Gurung fired into the soldier's sternum. The recoil jarred his spine. He fired again before the body fully collapsed. He checked the left lane. Still quiet. He checked the right. A faint glint. A helmet ridge. He raised the rifle and fired once. The helmet vanished. A rustle followed. A second silhouette ducked behind a tree trunk. Gurung waited for the head to peek right. He saw the shift, barely half an inch. Enough. He fired. Bark exploded outward. The head snapped sideways. Silence returned. Only the murmur of wind through palm leaves filled the trench. He crouched, his breath shallow. His right hand cramped from gripping the rifle stock. He flexed his fingers once. Pain ran along the joints. He shook it off. He could not afford hesitation. He heard heavy steps approaching. Not cautious. Not stealth. A charge. Multiple boots hitting soil in unison. A coordinated push. A squad leader calling pace. Their rifles clacked as they lowered them. Gurung adjusted position. He aligned the rifle at the center opening. He fired 3 times in quick succession. The shots echoed through the clearing. 2 figures dropped. The third stumbled. Gurung fired again. The stumble stopped. He grabbed the second rifle. It felt lighter, slightly different balance. He scanned the ridge. Another figure rose. He fired. The helmet flew backward. Soil sprayed behind it. Movement on the left. Fast. A bayonet charge. Gurung pivoted. Fired once. The attacker fell mid-stride. The bayonet stabbed the earth at a sharp angle, quivering like a marker. He exhaled through clenched teeth. His throat burned. The air smelled of smoke and rain. He listened again. The clearing quieted. No footsteps. No voices. Just the steady buzz of insects returning after the blasts faded. He scanned for silhouettes. None. He counted his rounds mentally. Not many. The magazines clinked faintly when shaken. He placed them beside his boot and picked the fullest one. A low rustle came from behind a fallen log. Someone crawling. Slow. Deliberate. Gurung aimed just above the log's edge. The barrel stayed still. His breath steady. He fired. The rustle stopped. He shifted to the right. More crawling. 2 bodies. Gurung fired twice. The second body tried to stand. Gurung fired again. The figure collapsed beside the first. He leaned his head against the trench wall. Sweat dripped onto the dirt. His uniform clung to his chest. His heartbeat thumped against the fabric like small fists. He inhaled once. Deep. The air felt thin. A branch snapped. Softer than before. A scout. Light-footed. No heavy kit. Possibly an officer. Gurung raised the rifle slowly. The scout's silhouette moved between trees. He waited for the step into open space. The scout stepped forward. Gurung fired. The silhouette folded at the waist. The officer's field glasses dropped and struck a rock, splitting the lens. He checked the horizon. Still movement. Distant shapes. Slow. Hesitant. They were reassessing. He knew they would regroup. He also knew he had minutes, maybe less, before another wave. He pressed his back to the wall. His breath slow. His rifle steady. He waited for the next sound. The battle was not finished. The night was not over. And the ridge still held more footsteps, creeping closer through the dark. He shifted his weight to the right side of the trench. The mud sucked at his boots. His fingers tightened around the rifle. The night air swirled with smoke. He felt grains of dust catch against his eyelashes. He blinked them away and listened for the next signal of movement. A faint scrape traveled along the ridge. Metal against stone. Someone adjusting a rifle sight. The motion was slow, deliberate, suggesting a marksman. Gurung lowered his head an inch. A sniper would aim for silhouettes. He stayed below the trench lip and angled the barrel upward. He saw a flicker of light, the reflection off a lens, a scope catching moonlight. He exhaled once and raised the rifle smoothly. The shot cracked. The reflection disappeared. A body slumped sideways onto loose soil. No scream, just a dull collapse. He switched rifles again. The second felt rougher. Dust embedded in the wood grain. He wiped the stock with his sleeve. The night had thickened. A low fog drifted through the clearing, mixing with powder smoke. It blurred edges, turned shapes soft. A rustle came from the right. Short bursts. A soldier running in broken intervals, trying to confuse aim. Gurung tilted the barrel toward the sound. He counted the rhythm of the footsteps. He fired when they aligned at the center of the trench opening. The body fell sideways. The run ended instantly. A rifle clattered onto stone. Gurung didn't wait for confirmation. He scanned left. Always left after a right flank push. Attackers favored the two-point pressure tactic. He braced his shoulder against the trench and waited. A whisper came from the trees. He could not hear the words but recognized the cadence. Two soldiers coordinating approach angles. One was closer. He heard dry leaves break under a heel. He shifted position by 12 inches and aimed at the center mass of the sound. He fired. A gasp followed. Then, silence. The second whisper stopped. Gurung held his position. The second man was watching for muzzle flash. He adjusted his angle slightly left and lifted the barrel half an inch higher than instinct. He saw the silhouette rise. A helmet. A shoulder. He fired. The silhouette dropped immediately. Leaves scattered around the impact. The wind shifted and carried the smell of cordite toward him. It mixed with the scent of broken bamboo. He exhaled slowly. His breath fogged in the cold air. He wiped his brow with the underside of his wrist. His right arm felt swollen. Every shot sent a jolt through his shoulder now. The fatigue was settling into the bone. He listened again. The clearing had gone still. No footsteps, No whispers, just the distant drone of insects returning whenever the gunfire paused. He scanned the ridge for movement, but saw only dark shapes of trees. Something tapped the ground lightly. Not a step, a small object. He looked down. A grenade had landed near his boot. The fuse burned orange. He lunged sideways, dragging his rifles with him. The blast lifted a spray of dirt and death, stones into the trench. He rolled onto his knees, his ears filled with a shrill tone. He blinked until shapes regained form. He grabbed the rifle closest to him and felt the heat in the barrel. He crawled back to cover, breath short and sharp. Two shadows rushed the ridge. Fast. Close. He fired once. Missed. Fired again. One shadow collapsed forward. The second dropped low and sprinted toward the trench. Gurung shifted the rifle down and fired a split second before the figure reached the edge. The body pitched forward and slid partway into the trench. Gurung pushed it aside with his boot. He checked the ridge again. He saw nothing but shifting fog. His chest rose and fell in fast, shallow breaths. He checked ammunition. 3 magazines, 1 half full, 2 with only a few rounds each. He placed them in order of weight beside his knee. He wiped mud from the bolt and reworked the action. The sound echoed inside the trench like metal scraping bone. A twig snapped behind a tree. Then another. Someone moving with weight. Not crawling. Walking. Slow, but committed. Gurung raised his rifle toward the sound. The fog parted faintly. A silhouette moved left to right. He fired. The silhouette staggered, but kept moving. A rare, stimulant-boosted push. He fired again. The figure collapsed on the second shot. The rifle fell from its hands and struck a root with a dry crack. He leaned into the trench wall. The night pressed close. Every breath felt heavy. His uniform was soaked. The humidity turned fabric into a damp shell. His fingers numbed at the tips. He flexed them slowly to keep sensation. He heard a low whistle, a signal. Coordinated. Not random. A squad repositioning. They were circling again. He steadied his hands. He pressed his cheek against the rifle stock and waited for the next sound. Boots pounded the ground. A charge. He fired 3 quick shots. The recoil slammed his shoulder. 2 bodies fell. A third kept running. He adjusted aim by inches and fired again. The charge ended in a heap of limbs against the ridge. He inhaled through his nose, the air thick with smoke. He swallowed hard. His throat burned as if lined with dust. He coughed once, quietly, and checked the left side again. Always left. He could not afford a blind angle. A faint metallic ring echoed. Someone pulling a pin. He searched the ridge. The arm appeared first. Gurung fired before the grenade left the hand. The arm jerked. The grenade dropped behind the attacker. The blast shook the nearest tree. Leaves drifted down like ash. Gurung watched the gap in the foliage for movement. He kept the rifle steady. His shoulder ached. His knees throbbed. But his breathing leveled out again. He heard footsteps behind the ridge. Lighter ones. Scouts. He aimed low. Scouts moved quickly but stayed near ground level. He caught a glimpse of cloth. Fired. A sharp cry followed. Another figure moved to pull the body back. Gurung fired again. He shifted position 2 feet right. The mana gave a sucking sound. He planted his boot firmly and steadied the rifle. The clearing had changed. Wind moved in uneven gusts. Each breeze carried smoke in unpredictable directions. He felt the ground tremble slightly, not from footsteps, from bodies shifting. He realized several wounded soldiers lay near the ridge, moving faintly. He watched their shapes. Any forward motion meant threat. None moved toward him. He angled his rifle upward. A new silhouette stood on the ridge. The posture was rigid. An officer, sword at his side. Gurung fired. The silhouette folded instantly. The sword hit a rock with a clean metallic note. He exhaled. Another sound emerged. Branches brushing together. Someone pushing through dense foliage. Slow, purposeful. A final attempt to breach the trench. Gurung adjusted his angle, waiting for the shape to emerge. A helmet appeared first, then a shoulder. The figure leaned forward, rifle ready. Gurung fired. The figure crumpled. The rifle skidded down the slope and stopped near the trench lip. He stared at it for a moment, then reached out and pulled it in. He held the captured weapon. Type 99, Arisaka. 6 pounds, 10 ounces. Lighter than the Lee-Enfield. He checked the sights. Clean. He loaded a round and set it beside him as backup. The forest quieted again. Only the soft hum of insects filled the air. Gurung steadied his breathing. His muscles trembled slightly. He ignored the fatigue. He listened. Always listened. A final crunch of leaves approached from the far right. A lone soldier. The step pattern was uneven. Injured, but still advancing. Gurung raised his rifle one last time, aligning the sights with the faint outline. He fired. The outline collapsed. The forest fell silent. He lowered the rifle slowly and let the barrel rest against the trench wall. The smell of smoke lingered. The air cooled, and the night held its breath as the ridge finally stilled. The first light of dawn pierced the canopy. Smoke swirled in the low fog. He stayed crouched, rifle against the trench wall. The ground around him was littered with bodies. Uniforms soaked in mud, blood, and rain. Bamboo stakes broken, rifles scattered. The silence was thick, almost unnatural. He flexed his fingers. The muscles screamed in protest. Every joint burned. He examined the trench. Craters from grenades dotted the floor, soil displaced in perfect arcs. A hand-sized depression near the lip marked where one had fallen. He counted 4 such craters within 10 meters. The bodies on the slope lay still. Japanese soldiers, every one of them. Some face down, some twisted awkwardly. His eyes traced bayonets embedded in wood, rifles discarded, helmets dented. He noted the distances between corpses. Each shot, each grenade, mapped precisely by impact. One figure slumped near a bamboo clump, Type 99 rifle still clutched loosely. He bent down carefully, tested the pulse with a gloved hand. None. He noted it silently. 12 meters from the trench edge, 3 bodies lay tangled. Gurung counted 14 total in this small sector alone. He checked his own magazines, 1 fully spent, 2 partially loaded, roughly 35 rounds remaining. Enough to hold a position if another charge came, though unlikely. He wiped mud from the bolt grooves. The Enfield's weight felt heavier now, soaked with sweat, blood, and grime. The trench floor was a map of the battle. Shell fragments embedded in mud. Spent cartridges lined the edges. He noted each pattern, left to right, front to back. Tactical movements, speed of approach, how far attackers had advanced before being stopped. A faint sound approached. Reinforcements. Allied voices carried over the ridge. Gurung stayed low, rifle ready. He observed carefully. Soldiers emerged from the tree line. helmets high, eyes scanning. They froze briefly when they saw the bodies. Shock etched on every face. He lifted one hand in recognition. A cautious approach followed. Officers inspected the slope. Maps in hand, notes scribbled on paper with trembling hands. They measured distances, counted casualties, and recorded weapon types. Gurung remained silent. Just another soldier, though he had done what no one thought possible. An officer knelt beside the trench. He pointed to the craters and bodies, then at Gurung. He spoke softly, but his tone carried awe. Gurung nodded minimally, thumb brushing the rifle stock. The officer scribbled furiously, noting grenade placement, rifle angles, and distances of body placement. The reinforcements moved carefully. They collected weapons, checking serial numbers, cataloging magazines. Gurung observed. Type 99 rifles, Lee-Enfield No.1 Mk III, bayonets, helmet fragments. They marked each location. Everything was evidence, forensic detail. Each piece would appear in the official report. One soldier approached a fallen enemy, extracted a grenade, checked the fuse, noted it was Lev. He called for a safe disposal team. The blast radius of each grenade recorded precisely. Explosive weight, distance from trench, and probable lethal area all logged. Gurung examined his own trench. Mud had shifted, stones displaced, blood congealed in patches. Each body had left traces. Boots scraped dirt, helmets pressed into clay, hands gripping shattered bamboo. He cataloged it mentally. Years later, historians would reconstruct every shot from this chaos. The slope was a tableau of his defense. Lines of bodies formed natural arcs. Each position taken by attackers corresponded with Gurung's firing. One body 10 meters forward, another 5 meters right. Grenade craters between. The ridge told the story. A single soldier had stopped them cold. He adjusted his uniform. Blood and mud crusted into every seam. He flexed his shoulder. Pain shot up from the elbow to the neck. Yet adrenaline kept him upright. The ridge, though littered with carnage, was fully under Allied control now. No further movement observed. Officers approached again. A camera. Photographs taken. They documented angles, placement, craters, impact marks on trees. Gurung observed silently. Each flash highlighted the chaos, the sequence of shots, the accuracy, the improbability of a one-handed stand lasting hours. One corporal counted bodies on the slope, 32 in this quadrant alone, more scattered further down. He paused, checked his notes, repeated the count. Each number meticulously logged. Gurung noted the precision of their accounting. This was to be entered into military history. They measured distances between shots. One bullet had traveled 33 meters, hit a kneeling soldier in the shoulder. Another ricocheted 5 meters. After hitting bamboo, hitting a second man. The trench itself had taken 2 minor blasts. Craters measured precisely at 45 and 52 centimeters in diameter. Gurung checked the Enfield again. Barrel intact, stock scratched, bayonet lug slightly bent. Function unaffected. He noted the difference between his rifle and the Type 99s he had encountered. Slightly heavier. Recoil manageable. Accuracy maintained, despite extreme fatigue. Every technical advantage and disadvantage cataloged in his mind. The slope held an eerie quiet. Broken bamboo, scattered magazines, helmet fragments. Each object represented a moment in time, a tactical decision. He traced the arcs of his shots, how each saved him from close approach, how the ridge had been controlled with precision, patience, and fire discipline. Officers pulled maps, plotted positions, graphed the arc of grenades, calculated impact radii. One officer glanced at Gurung. "Impossible," he muttered under his breath. Gurung remained expressionless. Facts spoke louder than words. Every calculation corroborated the unbelievable. One soldier, one hand, halting an entire force. They recorded the grenades. Weight. Fuse type. Detonation radius. One near the trench had thrown soil and debris 20 meters. Another, slightly misaligned, detonated safely away from trench. Every blast logged. Coordinates measured with compass and tape. A corporal took measurements of bullet impacts, depth of penetration, angle of entry, deformation of metal helmets. Every data point cataloged. Gurung understood their fascination. One rifle, 35 rounds, against 40 soldiers. Numbers told the story plainly. He had achieved the improbable. He adjusted position again, checked the bodies. Some still had weapons clutched. Some lay with bayonets near their hands. He noted their stance, angle of fall, timing, sequence. The forensic mapping would show each movement, each death, precisely in the final report. Smoke lifted. Sunlight caught the ridge. Shadows shifted. Bodies revealed new details. Torn sleeves, helmet dents, scratches along uniforms. Gurung traced the arcs of the bayonets, rifle rounds, and grenade impacts. Every mark told a story of movement, resistance, and survival. He examined grenades. Cordite residue still clung to their casings. The fuses had burned unevenly, a testament to placement and timing. Distance from trench measured precisely at 2.4 and 3.1 meters. Blast radii mapped. Explosive force calculated. Each variable noted for historical accuracy. A fellow soldier checked his rifles, both functioning. He made small repairs, lubricated the bolt, wiped the stock. A forensic record would later note the condition: fully operational, minor scratches, fully functional bayonet lug. Every detail cataloged. He surveyed the ridge. Minimal movement. Japanese forces had withdrawn. Reinforcements confirmed the area secure. Gurung remained crouched, every muscle still taut, eyes scanning. He counted bodies one final time in his section, 42 total. Exhaustion mounting. An officer approached, held a notebook, scribbled observations rapidly. "Your stand will be in the official report," he said. Gurung nodded. No words exchanged. Silence was the proper response. Actions had spoken louder than accolades. They began recovering rifles. Type 99s collected, noted, magazines cataloged, grenades removed and set for disposal. The slope cleared carefully, methodically. Gurung remained on alert. He observed each step, noting procedural efficiency, gaps, and minor oversights. A soldier's precision, even in aftermath, mattered. Officers took final photographs. Wide angle, close up. Objects mapped for scale. He crouched in one shot for reference. Every shadow, every slope angle recorded. A forensic historian would reconstruct the battle from these images decades later. The ground remained disturbed. Soil clumps, small craters, debris. Bullet casings lined faint arcs. Broken bamboo lay at angles corresponding to grenade impact points. The forensic reconstruction would note trajectories, Distances. Sequences. Gurung leaned back. Pain etched across every joint. Shoulder locked. Fingers numb. Sweat crusted into his hair. Uniform heavy, with mud and blood. But the ridge was secure. His one-handed defense had stopped a force of 40 soldiers in its tracks. An officer approached, saluted. Gurung nodded. No words. Documentation continued. Each body numbered, each weapon logged, each grenade recorded. The ridge had become a meticulous map of chaos, all reconstructed with precision and clinical clarity. The sun rose higher. Light touched every crater, every body, every weapon. Shadows shortened. The ridge, now still, bore witness to the extraordinary stand. One man, one rifle, one hand. The impossible had been done. Medics approached cautiously, stretcher in hand. They checked Gurung's arm. The damage was severe, but not life-threatening. Fingers swollen, shoulder bruised. Sweat mixed with mud and blood crusted across his uniform. He allowed them to lift him carefully. Every movement measured. Pain radiated with every shift. They checked the trench. Every body noted. Each weapon catalogued. Gurung remained alert, tracking their movements. Even after hours of combat, his mind ran through trajectories, distances, and angles. The ridge had been a live map, and he had memorized every line and crater. The first casualty report reached the officers. 42 enemy dead. Grenades detonated, rifles neutralized, bayonets collected. Details of rounds fired, rifle malfunctions, and approximate shot distances were included. Gurung remained silent, listening. His one-handed stand was documented meticulously. Facts alone carried the story. An officer approached with a notebook and clipboard. Measurements still being verified. Gurung's actions were logged chronologically. Shots, grenade impacts, distances, enemy movements. Each observation added to a formal military record. The data would serve as proof, long after the ridge lay empty. Medics secured his rifle across the stretcher, weight balanced carefully. The Enfield, despite scratches and grime, was functional, its barrel cool to the touch. Gurung flexed his right hand against the stock, metal against blood-stained fabric. Every detail noted for the historical report. Reinforcements cleared the ridge systematically. Every bamboo stalk, crater, and body noted. Grenades collected for disposal. Officers cross-referenced positions with photographs. The ridge was no longer a battlefield. It was a forensic map. Gurung remained the central reference point in their records. One officer checked the distance between his firing position and enemy bodies. Average 32 meters, maximum 41, minimum 12. Shot angles calculated using rudimentary protractors. The result? Extraordinary efficiency for one man, one hand, against a full squad. Gurung observed silently, absorbing the numbers. A corporal inspected the weapons. Type 99 rifles weighed 6.9 pounds. Magazine capacity 5 rounds. Compare that to Gurung's No.1 Mk III at 8.6 pounds, 10 rounds per magazine. Each technical disadvantage catalogued meticulously. His efficiency became more remarkable with each calculation. The medics prepared to evacuate him. A stretch of muddy path to the transport point. Every step precise. His arms strapped but still tender. He noted the soil composition, slope angles, and any remaining hazards. The battlefield was still a risk zone, even in silence. A young soldier helped him onto a stretcher. His body weight, combined with gear, required 2 medics. Gurung's muscles burned from prolonged strain. Every movement reminded him of the hours spent holding the line, each shot, each grenade impact, each fallen soldier. They moved carefully down the slope. The rifle lay across his chest, straps secure. Mud clung to boots. Rainwater pooled in the trench. Every step echoed lightly against stones and bamboo. The ridge behind them silent now, except for distant rustling of birds and insects returning. An officer documented every movement: evacuation path, soil disruption, body locations. Gurung observed the procedure, knowing that each meticulous detail would later serve as evidence for official recognition. The forensic approach continued even during his retreat. They reached the transport vehicle. It rattled along the dirt track. Gurung's body jolted with each bump. The Enfield remained across his chest. Medics adjusted straps, ensuring the rifle did not shift. Every movement had to be precise. One mistake could trigger injury or accident. He looked back at the ridge. Bodies still scattered, weapons collected, craters mapped. The silence felt unreal. Hours ago, it had been chaos. Now, the ridge was a frozen map of precise action, documented in both photographs and handwritten notes. His effort stood as a singular testament. The vehicle stopped at the field hospital. Medics assisted him down. The ground soft, muddy. His weight against the stretcher pressed the mud into his uniform. Officers continued documentation. Each step recorded, every movement plotted. The forensic chain of evidence extended from ridge to hospital. He was placed on a cot, bandages applied, pulse checked, shoulder immobilized. The arm, though severely strained, retained mobility. Medics praised the minimal damage, considering the intensity of the action. Gurung acknowledged with a nod, silent. Action spoke louder than words. Officers arrived to interview him. Questions about timing, enemy approach, grenade locations. Gurung answered with brevity. Exact distances, angles, number of rounds, sequence of enemy movements, data precise. His memory functioned as a living battlefield map, each detail corroborated by photographs and physical evidence. A photograph taken at the hospital. Gurung seated, rifle across chest. Sweat, mud, and blood visible. Expression neutral, eyes sharp. Officers noted position, posture, and surroundings. The image would later appear in official reports, illustrating the extraordinary one-handed defense. A military scribe began drafting the citation. Every detail included 42 enemy casualties, precise positioning, one-hand operation, rifle efficiency, grenade impact, and sequence of action. Gurung observed quietly, knowing the report would be scrutinized for accuracy and completeness. Officers examined maps, ridge angles, enemy approach paths, firing positions. Each note referenced Gurung's memory and documentation. The forensic precision of the defense ensured the award would be backed by evidence, not merely anecdotal accounts. A medic measured the arm. Swelling noted. Pain levels logged. Bruising documented. Every minor injury recorded in case files. The one-handed stand left marks not just in history, but physically on his body. Precision in observation mirrored precision in combat. Reinforcements arrived to assist in equipment recovery. Type 99 rifles, bayonets. Helmets collected, grenades marked for disposal. Officers verified serial numbers. Each item photographed and logged. Gurung observed methodically, noting discrepancies, any misplacement. Attention to detail never left him. He flexed his shoulder. Pain radiated, muscles stiffened. Officers noted the strain, correlating exertion with known biomechanics. Rifles lifted, bullets fired, grenades deflected. The medical and tactical analysis combined into a single forensic record. The officer in charge called for a full recount. Number of enemy killed, distance, weapons used, rifle rounds expended. Gurung verified each entry. Total enemy, 42. Total rounds fired, estimated 95. Grenades diffused, 6. Rifle functioning maintained. Yes. He observed every document. Reports written meticulously. Each number, each note cross-referenced. The one-handed stand meticulously mapped. Distances, angles, number of rounds, enemy approach pattern. Every calculation confirmed. The impossible had been done, and now verified. An officer recorded Gurung's personal statement. Detailed, chronological, precise. Every action timed. Every shot noted. Every grenade accounted. Sequence of enemy approach described. Maps referenced. Every claim corroborated by physical evidence. Accuracy essential. They measured the ridge slope again. 10-degree incline average. 32 meters length. Highest point, 3.1 meters above trench. Crater diameter, 45 to 52 centimeters. Every detail logged. Every measurement cross-checked. The battlefield became a meticulously documented scene. A scribe noted enemy weapon models. Type 99, weight 6.9 pounds. Magazine 5 rounds. Lee-Enfield Mk III. Weight 8.6 pounds. Magazine 10 rounds. Recoil, firing rate, and handling logged. Each technical difference documented for tactical analysis. Gurung flexed fingers. Numbness persisted. Shoulder stiff. The Enfield cleaned and placed beside him. Equipment meticulously catalogued. He remained alert, aware that his battle would serve as a teaching case in military schools. An officer approached with a commendation draft. Words precise. Bravery, skill, determination. Gurung remained silent. He only nodded. Actions, not words, carried the weight. The forensic report substantiated every claim, leaving no room for exaggeration. He was photographed with the ridge in the background, bodies cleared for visuals, equipment arranged, images captured angles, distances, and sequence, historical evidence preserved. The day progressed. Officers finalized the official report. Every shot, grenade, and movement recorded. Maps, sketches, photos cross-referenced. The one-handed stand entered military history as an exceptional tactical achievement. Medics prepared him for final evacuation. Immobilized, shoulder strapped, stretcher lifted. Ridge left behind, intact in memory and documentation. Every detail noted. Every action logged. Gurung observed the path to transport. Every incline, soil type, hazard noted. Nothing left unexamined. The battle, though over, remained alive in his memory, documented for posterity. He exhaled slowly, shoulder throbbing, fingers stiff, uniform soaked, mud crusted, blood dried, the ridge silent. Enemy neutralized, the impossible achieved. One man had held an entire position alone, one hand against 42 enemies. Officers confirmed the report. Scribes signed. Measurements logged. Photographs verified. Maps finalized. The one-handed defense entered military archives, ready for analysis, teaching, and recognition. The Enfield rested beside him, functional, reliable, heavy. 35 rounds remaining. Every shot accounted for. Every movement documented. The rifle a living record of extraordinary performance. Gurung's evacuation completed. Ridge left behind, pristine in its forensic details. Every crater, body, weapon, and trajectory mapped. The battlefield frozen in history, ready to teach future soldiers the power of discipline, precision, and resolve.